Andor, the adult version of Star Wars, is here, which means flashbacks, everything moving at a glacial pace. And of course, we have to start in a brothel.
I don't want Garni.
Behave.
Oh, she's funny, isn't she?
This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build your online presence. But before we discuss Hollywood's morals, or lack thereof, let's discuss the entertainment value of Andor. Andor looks 1,000 times better than most of Disney's Star Wars content. The low point, of course, being, sadly, the Kenobi show. Yes, ever since the producers announced they weren't going to use the stagecraft large projection screens that Lucasfilm has been relying on for all of their Disney Plus content, I've been interested to see how this show would look, because those screens in the right hands can look amazing. In the wrong hands, which is most of the time, it makes scenes look oddly framed and forces everything to look highly artificial. But thankfully, a lot of this show looks amazing, which it should for $15 to $25 million per episode. You see, Andor was shot on location in the UK and at the classic Pinewood Studios, which means we also happily get a lot of British accents, which is a nice change and feels like old times.
I'm not even a Native American. No, you're the closest thing we've got, and that's a fact.
Everything looks and feels like it was shot by a professional with actual talent, nicely framed shots, better lighting, interesting ideas, even things we haven't seen before, which is highly unusual for this franchise. We even get a droid with an interesting personality who feels like he's straight out of Silent Running.
Take care of yourself, Dewey. Things just haven't worked out for me.
And something very rare in modern Star Wars, a mostly good cast that can project feelings and emotion without screaming, and they're actually a pleasure to watch. It all feels a bit wrong, and the feeling of it being a bit wrong has nothing to do with it being surprisingly well executed. It all feels a bit wrong because it doesn't feel anything like Star Wars, which is a bit of a problem when you're supposedly making Star Wars content. Boy, did I get excited when we didn't start in some shitty town. I mean, the look's all straight out of other movies, and there's not one original idea, but still, we're in a city and not another horrible, dirty little town. Well, that didn't last long. So why doesn't it feel like Star Wars? Star Wars was a classic tale of good and evil, wrapped in a fantasy sci-fi adventure. And fantasy being the important bit, Star Wars is closer in tone to a wizard and dragon adventure than it is to wormholes and scientific problems. Now, I hate to break this to a lot of people, but another thing about the Star Wars universe is that it isn't real. The locations aren't real. The events aren't real. I have to explain this because a lot of people like to say things like, I want to know more about the side characters in Star Wars, or I want more Star Wars without the annoying Jedi and Sith. As if Star Wars is a real place and these other amazing stories are sitting there waiting to be discovered. It's such a bizarre way to look at art and creativity and how fiction works. The Star Wars side stories these people think would be fascinating just don't exist. What does exist are many loved books that would make for great content. Writers that understood the world of Star Wars and weren't trying to fight against it, which is very different to what we're getting today. But what am I thinking? Of course Andor is the story everyone wants.
When we get to camp, we're going to tell them this was my idea and we've been planning it all the while. If you change that in any way, you and I are going to have a big problem.
I'm always perplexed when people say they want Star Wars to move away from the Jedi and the Force, as if Star Wars has more to offer. The Jedi and the Force are the main thing that separates Star Wars from a lot of other mundane sci-fi.
Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
And look what you get when they do remove it completely. And look what you get when you see just a hint of it. Plus, Disney has already spent their whole time racing away from the Jedi and the Sith.
It's time for the Jedi to end.
Rogue One, no Jedi. Solo, a Star Wars story, no Jedi. The sequels, fake Jedi. Mandalorian, minimal Jedi. Boba Fett, no Jedi. Obi-Wan, dollar store Sith. Andor, no Jedi. And when the Disney shows do attempt anything with the Jedi or Force, people lose their fucking minds with joy, no matter how minimal or token the scene is. It's the same reaction when we get a hint of the fantasy element. Man, I think Ahsoka and The Mandalorian is the only time they have come close to recapturing the true fantasy feel of Star Wars. But for some reason, modern Lucasfilm are too arrogant or too stupid to understand this. So they keep trying to move away from the things that people love about Star Wars.
So uncivilized.
I really hope the new Indiana Jones has more school politics and more talking and less adventure. And please, can we move on from all that archaeological crap? Because I'd like to know more about the side characters, like Mutt. Please, Disney, an adult show where Mutt visits every brothel in Tijuana. Why not Back to the Future, but with less time travel? Maybe we could see how Marty's uncle ended up in jail. Maybe it could be brothel related.
Your Uncle Joey didn't make parole again.
The original Jurassic Park is a classic. Why not a backstory to the guy who died on the toilet? Seeing how he became a lawyer would be very slow and boring. And apparently, that's perfect grown-up entertainment. Can we have new Star Trek with all the interesting writing removed and more dumb over-the-top action forced in?
Oh dear, that one's already happened.
Just need you to be brave for a few more minutes. You with me?
In the history of cinema, most, and by a large margin, most films were made for the grown-ups. And up to a couple of years ago, strip joints and brothels were reserved for actual adult content.
Pure Alabama black snake.
Okay.
But Pretty Woman changed all that. All of a sudden, streetwalkers didn't smell like a combination of cheap perfume and sweat, didn't have visible track marks, and oddly, still had all their own teeth. Well, Julia Roberts always looks like she's always got an extra set of teeth shoved in there, so it's hard to tell. So now every bloody show out of America has to visit a strip joint or a brothel, which is fine if the entertainment doesn't fall under a name that has been marketed to kids and families for the past 40 years. What's a brothel? So yes, again, for what keeps coming up when reviewing Disney content, we see the concerning mentality of the modern Hollywood. We have adult themes forced into a show that is purely made to attract kids and families to the Disney streaming service.
We do have a lovely lady here tonight from Tahina who's got those big dark eyes you ever click on.
I don't want Ghani.
Behave.
And the brothel scene added absolutely nothing to the story.
I'm looking for my sister.
A story we're going to forget about in 5 minutes. Literally, 4 episodes in and he hasn't mentioned his sister again.
Are you in all the way?
Let's get to it.
Now a little break to talk about our favourite sponsor, Squarespace. One of the luxuries I enjoy as the jet-setter robot head is having a website that not only looks incredible, but also leads the way in features and design. And the best part is, thanks to Squarespace, everyone can now have a professionally designed website that will grow your passion and help make your life as fantastic as mine. Whether you're a business owner, YouTuber, podcaster, photographer, filmmaker, musician, or a shop owner, you need to have a home. You need a website. And with Squarespace, you can have a killer website with built-in features to help you grow your online presence. Squarespace will have you bringing your website to life with features like photo galleries, portfolios, and one of my favourites, video backgrounds, all of which you will be able to easily manage and edit yourself. Oh, look at that beautiful robot head. And with the new members area, you can monetize and protect your content right on your own website, and then no one can stop you making that lovely money. And because Squarespace can't stop getting better, they've just introduced Squarespace Video Studio, which is a game changer for marketing your business. Go to squarespace.com/robothead and try Squarespace absolutely free for 14 days. And then when you are ready to blast off, use the code ROBOTHEAD for 10% off your first purchase. See the link below. Get your ass moving on those dreams. Go to Squarespace today. Andor's sister, who he is trying to find, could have been working as a dish hand, or a cleaner, or a bartender, or 1,000 other jobs and would have made zero difference to the story. But no, our new Star Wars family entertainment starts with Andor discussing how his sister took money for shoving bits of other people, and I'm guessing aliens, into her regions. And like I said in the last video, I'm Australian. It's virtually impossible to offend me.
Jesus Christ! Get that fucking thing out of here, you mad bastard!
I'm going to try and get that clip into every video. But I, like most normal people, know the difference between entertainment for all ages and entertainment aimed at a so-called adult audience. What is going on at Disney and why do they care so little for the people that made them the company they are? Walt must be spinning in his cryo chamber at the death of creativity and family entertainment. Anyway, we're not here to dissect Hollywood and its bizarre view of women, because I just did that video. But Disney's selling the idea that any genre can be and should be placed under the Star Wars banner is not only ridiculous, it's also lazy. They may as well make a hard adult version of The Wizard of Oz. People who say they want a more adult version of Star Wars, or a more serious version, are really saying, I just want more shows that feature my toys, regardless of quality or tone.
What happened?
It's a marketing team's wet dream. Grab any script, have a TIE fighter fly past, and we're all good to go. Growing up, we'd watch the Star Wars movies. Then we'd switch over to Battlestar Galactica, Doctor Who might be on, or Arc 2, maybe even reruns of Logan's Run, or Buck Rogers in the 25th century. Could have been Star Trek that was going to fill up your night. We watched them all, because they all had a different look, flavour and feel.
It's called getting down.
The language was different, the stories were different, the fucking villains were different. It wasn't always the bloody Empire.
Find important.
Taking something of real value from the Empire.
Each offered something original. Star Trek didn't look like Doctor Who. Star Wars didn't look like Blade Runner. Well, now it does. Now it looks exactly like Blade Runner, and 2001, and about 20 other movies it's ripping off. It's hard to believe Star Wars changed the look of cinema, and now all they do is copy other cinema. If Disney had the same control and attitude over the movie industry in the 80s as they do now, we would have never seen films like RoboCop, Blade Runner, Terminator, The Running Man, Escape from New York, They Live, The Fly, Repo Man, Tron, even E.T. Well, we might have got those films, but they would have been watered down, stretched out, and completely boring. But the modern Disney consumer would be happy because it would have Star Wars in the title, and they would get to see things they recognise to keep them in their safe place. Because how many people do you think would be applauding Andor if it was a new franchise and not under the Star Wars banner? At the pace it's going and the choice of lead character, I'd say not many. I do like how the terms mature and grown up are used by journalists to feign intelligence when discussing a show that's unbearably slow and boring. The films I mentioned, RoboCop, Blade Runner, Terminator, The Running Man, Escape from New York, They Live, The Fly, Repo Man, were all made and rated for adults. And they were all a blast to watch. Game of Thrones was not made for the kids. If you have to make an adult version of Star Wars, why not something closer to that? Politics, battles, murder, sex, dragons, heads exploding. You know, actual fun things to watch. And you could just remove the sex and heads exploding and replace the swords with lightsabers, and it wouldn't be just for the adults. Everyone could have fun watching it. No, grown-up Star Wars has to put the most boring and forgettable character into a boring and slow show where very little happens.
We're robbing the armory at the Aldani garrison.
A heist story. How many times are we going to repeat the same idea? It's always getting in and out of some base or ship.
That's why they only keep a 40-man regiment in the garrison.
Because they know no one's stupid enough to try it.
I don't see any shields.
That's because no one would be stupid enough to attack them.
The dumbass Disney writers have 2, maybe 3 ideas they keep rotating. Force Awakens, enter Star Killer Base undetected to turn something off. Everything goes wrong. Rogue One, go undercover to enter Scarif Base undetected to steal plans. Everything goes wrong. Last Jedi, go undercover to enter Snoke's ship to turn something off. Everything goes wrong. Solo, a Star Wars story, go undercover to steal an Empire ship and then go undercover to steal coaxium. Everything goes wrong. The Mandalorian, go undercover to enter an Imperial base and steal information. Everything goes wrong. Rise of Skywalker, enter Kylo's ship undetected to steal Chewie. Everything goes wrong. The Book of Boba Fett, enter Jabba's palace undetected to steal Slave One. Everything goes wrong. Obi-Wan Kenobi, go undercover to enter Fortress Inquisitorius to steal Leia. Everything goes wrong. Andor, go undercover to an Imperial base to steal money. Could it be possible that everything will go wrong?
We're not prepped for this.
We have an extra uniform. Gonna need to leave us your belt and gloves.
That's 9 for 9. I'm glad we're finally getting something new in Star Wars.
It's a suicide run.
Exactly.
Goats with 4 horns, AK-47s, they've let their imaginations go wild with this one. Andor early reactions call it complex, mature, and the best Star Wars spin-off series so far. Grown-up noir thriller makes for the best Star Wars show yet, 5 stars. NME should look up the meanings too. Grown-up, noir, and thriller. Because they don't mean what you think they do. Differs from every Star Wars series before it, in the best ways. Yes, removing any sense of fantasy, excitement, or fun does make this show differ from the other Star Wars content. Shell's got a shell. Ah, well, who knows? This heist storyline could be the greatest Star Wars idea ever. And I might even see something I recognise. TIE Fighter! Come on, Andor. You can't just look good. You've got to actually do something.
Because they know no one's stupid enough to try it.
No one but us.